What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Rec Talk. This is like day 4 in a row of uploading a video a day after going about 2 weeks without uploading. So hope y'all are enjoying that. Today I want to talk about what are Georgia Tech's biggest needs, or another way of saying it is, what are my biggest worries, really roster wise, going in to this coming up season. I am doing right now a comprehensive breakdown of the roster. So I basically have everything in an Excel sheet. Last year's roster, this year's roster, who we're losing, what we're bringing in this recruiting class, what we're bringing in this portal class. And I'll have it laid out where here's the net loss or gain in that position and kind of an estimate of the net loss or gain kind of skill-wise in each position. So that'll be a video that comes out for members first, and then I'll release it to everyone else at sometime after that. But just kind of a cursory look what I've seen thus far. Obviously the number one pain point for Georgia Tech roster wise coming into this season is going to be the defensive line. We lose nearly all of our production from last year's squad, either due to graduation or the transfer portal. We lose, obviously, Romello Height to Texas Tech in the portal, which hurts a lot. Then you lose Zeke Biggers, who was a force up the middle for us. Any guy that's like 6'7", 330 or whatever he got down to, 340. You don't drive through Cobb County without seeing 4 or 5 cops with their lights on, or 4 or 5 ambulances. But anyways, losing Zeke Biggers is a big loss. So Romello Height, Zeke Biggers. Then you lose Sylvania Anjuin. You lose Joshua Robinson. You lose Makia Scott. You lose Horace Lockett. From what I remember, we lose 8 total. Now, we lose other guys to the portal that didn't really play a major part contributing, like the Icho kid. There's like 3 of them or so that hit the portal that didn't really see a lot of playing time. The only person that you'd probably recognize his name, just as kind of maybe a more casual fan, which I'm not meaning that as a bad thing, but just the general Georgia Tech fan, the only name they're going to recognize is Jordan Vandenberg. Great to have him coming back, but he's really the only one that played a major role in that defensive front last year that's returning. Now, that was a major focus in the first portal window. I don't remember the exact number that we're bringing in. I want to say around 4, and then maybe another 4 or so in the recruiting class. Can a guy like Christian Garrett come in and be a contributor day one? Derry Norris, another kid I want to say Miami was going after very heavily. I don't know. It's a big ask to ask a true freshman to come in. They're probably going to have to put some weight on. They're really going to have to hit the weight room and be a contributor day one. I don't think you can expect that. I hope it happens. I don't think you can expect that. We do bring in a guy from Clemson. His name's escaping me right now, A.J. Hoffner or something like that, that I do think played some snaps for them as like an 88 transfer. But we don't have a good track record with people coming in, transferring in from Clemson. It seems to be the natural progression that people transfer from Clemson to Tech and then Tech to UMass. I know Pumachan did that, and EJ or Edinoza Rubin, I think they called him ET, who never really did a whole lot at Tech. And honestly, Tech has kind of struggled with, well, not kind of, Tech struggled a lot with recruiting and portal classing defensive linemen. The one that we brought in that really, really hit out of the portal class was the kid that went to Texas Tech, Romello Height. And again, that's brutal that we're losing him. So we're going to have to find a ton of production on the defensive front that didn't produce for us last year, and that has me concerned. That's why, if you remember yesterday, when Josh Pate said, Georgia Tech in a backhanded way in the ACC title, for that to happen, Georgia Tech's got to figure out this defensive front. And look, Jess Simpson's going to earn his money this year, because you're going to have to develop the hell out of some kids to be ready, especially going into Colorado early. You bring in Clemson, who anyone has them winning the ACC title this year. Clemson returns a ton of production. They've got to be in the top 5 in the country of Power 4 teams as far as returning production. Probably the number 1 quarterback in the ACC. So there's the defensive front. On the defensive side, linebacker is probably the one I'm least worried about. You bring back, really the only person you lose is Trinelius Tatum, who was a major contributor for you last year, no doubt. But you bring back Kyle Eifert, you bring back Jackson Hamilton, EJ Lightsley, who had some injury issues last year, didn't get to play until a little bit later in the season. I'm really high on Tajay Butler. So you've got a solid rotation of returning linebackers that are coming back in. In the secondary, I think you lose Warren Burrell. You lose there was some we lost to the portal, obviously. Lamiles Brooks we lose to graduation, which is really a tragic story. I really like Lamiles Brooks. He played the best in Key's interim year. Unfortunately, I want to say there's probably maybe some injury issues, but he was just never able to get back to that level of play. But you return a lot in the secondary. Saeed Gibbs, like Amari Harvey, Clayton Powell-Lee. I'm not really worried about the secondary, especially with what we have coming in with Tay Harris, Dalen Pinson. Tay Harris is like the 3rd highest ranked recruit we've ever brought in. A guy we were able to flip from Clemson, a guy that everyone I've talked to is super high on, and a guy that if he lives up to his potential, he's a 1, 2, or 3rd round pick if he lives up to his potentials. On top of Blake Gideon that you bring in is one of the best defensive back coaches in the country. Also, if you didn't see, rated the 2nd best recruiter, and I have to assume this is from non-head coaches, but as far as non-head coaches, 2nd best recruiter in the country. So it's going to be exciting to see what he brings in the 2026 class. That's the defensive side. On the offensive side, the position I'm the most worried about is running back. We have a clear-cut running back 1, no doubt. Jamal Haynes is a ball player. Hell, you're not going to find a bigger Jamal Haynes fan than me. And also just the nicest and most fun guy probably to be around on that offensive front. Now that Chase Lane was kind of that too. But if you got a fan day, I'm sure they'll do it again this year. And you get to see Jamal Haynes, you're never going to see that guy not smiling, man. That guy's a ton of fun to be around and a hell of a ball player. Past that, not clear who running back 2 is, and that's why this is the position group 1 offense I'm most worried about. Look, running back is a brutal position. It's a brutal grind throughout the season, and I don't care what type of offense you run, minus maybe the air raid, which no one runs anymore. Rest in peace, Mike Leach. But you need 3 running backs that can go at a minimum, and probably you need at least, you'd like to have 4 or 5 guys that you can at least put in there at any spot in the game. That would be the goal. Who is the clear running back 2? If you ask, Monte, or, they call him Tay from After Swarm. Montega, I think's his name. I just mispronounced it, and I had him on the show. I'm a degenerate, man. I don't know what I'm talking about. He has Chad Alexander as running back too, which is surprising and also not surprising. Now, this is his opinion, but if you look at just the guy that was nearly a guaranteed 3 or 4 yards for us last year. Of course, there's going to be a train that comes by me while I'm trying to record a video. But a guy that was just surefire to get you 3 or 4 yards. Chad Alexander was that guy. I don't think he put the ball on the ground once last year. I could be wrong about that. But that would not surprise me. Now, who do I think will eventually, maybe not by game 1, but probably by game 3 or 4, end up being running back 2 for us? Malachi Hosley, that we bring in from the University of Pennsylvania. What was he like? Are they Ivy League? He was all whatever conference they're in last year. A guy that North Carolina made a big push for. We were able to get him. Where is he from? He's from somewhere in Georgia. I think he comes back home. Malachi Hosley is a guy that makes me feel a whole lot better about that running back room. Then you have like Anthony Carey, Trelane Maddox as far as returning production. What you bring in this recruiting class, you got J.P. Powell, a guy that we interviewed on the channel, who was upgraded to a 4-star, had a hell of a senior season, and then I think a guy named Shane Marshall out of Tennessee. Now, Montega and I both agree on you're going to have one and most likely, in my opinion, 2 running backs transfer out after the spring, Anthony Carey or Trelane Maddox. If I had to guess, Trelane Maddox is probably further down on the depth chart at the moment than Anthony Carey. Anthony Carey, a guy that came in and said, hey, I'm going to be a freshman All-American. That's my goal. Didn't live up anywhere near to that. And we did have a ton of injury issues out of that running back room. At certain times last year, we were down to our 3rd and 4th string running back. But we're going to have to, in other words, at that running back 2 position, you're going to have guys step up that you didn't see play a whole lot last year and really separate themselves and take this opportunity to separate themselves to being the clear running back 2 or running back 3 on this roster. Also, Trey Cooley, I didn't know he had eligibility left. He hits the portal. As far as I've seen, though, no one's picked him up. And that's something else to probably talk about. The transfer portal is what it is, and you can kind of live by it or die by it. As a team or as a player, look, Trey Cooley did not, I don't know what the analogous thing is, the portal stock, didn't have a ton of portal stock, especially coming off a pretty serious concussion, it seemed like, sustained at the Florida State game. Hits the portal probably because he was, far down on the depth chart, but no one picked him up. So I imagine we've already filled that spot. Like, I don't know if we take him back or not. And then kind of another tragic story, a guy that showed a ton of promise. If you think back to that Louisville game and early in that season, and just really had trouble holding on to the ball, had fumbling issues. So that's the running back room. Wide receiver, obviously losing Eric Singleton Jr. That's not going to be a guy that's easily replaced, or maybe even that you can replace. He ends up going to Auburn. More power to him. Whatever. Went and got paid. It is what it is. You lose Chase Lane. You lose Leo Blackburn. Another tragic story. 2, I think, ACL tears. A guy that's going to be going to Georgia State this coming up year. A guy, the injury just plagued him, though. And as far as wide receivers, we're losing Abdul Janae as well. It's still unclear to me. I don't know if he graduated, if he's in the portal. I don't think he's in the portal. But that was a guy that really was a surefire blocker. I don't remember him dropping a lot of balls. That's what you lose. Who am I excited about? Obviously, Eric Rivers. I got to see him play because I went and saw FIU play Kennesaw State. That guy showed out in that game. They ended up losing that game, by the way, and Kennesaw State was able to come back on them. But you bring in Eric Rivers. He's probably the guy that you're looking to kind of fill that position. I think he's listed at 5'11". He also brings in with him someone that people are not as high on as probably me, but when I watched him play, Dean Patterson, also coming off that FIU team, big kid, like 6'2", I want to say like 190 pounds, not as fast, probably can play more on the outside for you. Who else do we bring in? Jordan Allen, guy that we've ended up flipping from Clemson, built like Malik Rutherford, has more speed akin to Eric Singleton Jr., though. If I had to guess, he's going to get some snaps this season. He'll be exciting to watch out for. As far as returning production, obviously Malik Rutherford. I'm still a little sore about the I'm hitting the portal, I'm not hitting the portal, and then fumbling in a key moment in that bowl game. Eventually I'll get over that, but he'll be a big one to come back and watch. Isaiah Canyon, a guy that didn't get a ton of snaps last year, but I think took advantage of the opportunities he was given. Big 6'4" kid, and a guy that, hey, hell, if he really works at it, could kind of have a breakout season for Tech. Kind of what I expected from Leo Blackburn. I think Isaiah Canyon can come. Zion Taylor is a guy I was high on last year that didn't get to see the field a ton. Might see something from him. Not really worried as much about the wide receiver room. Another position group I would be worried about is tight end. I want to say we lose 4 or so tight ends. We lose Brett Seither, Rylan Godey, Jackson Hawes. Jackson Hawes is just a menace. I don't know if you saw the quote for him. He's one of the 2 that was invited to the NFL Combine, and he said, "Hey, I'm just looking to get my face mask up under your chin." Dirty player, baby, in a good way, not in a bad way. A guy that'll just knock your dick into the ground, and he's going to end up getting drafted. He's a big loss for us. As far as receiving production at tight end, Georgia Tech hasn't had that. When was the last time we had a tight end with more than like 500 or 600 yards? Hell, I couldn't tell you. It was probably, it was at a minimum when Gailey was here. And it was probably, when Ralph Friedgen was a coach, tight end wasn't the position that it is now as far as being a wide receiver as opposed to a blocker. But we lose a good bit at tight end. I would look for Luke Harpering to take a step up this year. He got some snaps as a true freshman last year. We bring in 2 kids out of the portal. I don't know that we recruited 2 tight ends too, so we bring in 4 between the portal and tight ends. I don't know what to think about tight end. I think Tantor made a good point. We don't really scheme up tight ends that much. Also, we lose Avery Boyd. That's a key loss we have. He was the only one we really schemed up for out of that tight end group. And I don't know what to think about the tight end group. I don't see anyone that's going to come in and have the production that maybe Avery Boyd did, aside from maybe Luke Harper, as far as being a receiving wide receiver. But we don't really run crossing routes with tight ends. We don't really scheme them up. Hell, I mean, the year before last, we caught Brett Seither on a nice wheel concept in the end zone. But that'd be one I'm a little bit worried about as well. Quarterback, here's the thing with quarterback. I'm not worried about quarterback. Everyone's got Haynes King as a top 5 quarterback in the ACC. Most are going to have him in the top 3, or a lot are going to have him in the top 3. If you listen to what people say about Haynes King, like I listened to Bryce Coon's thing a little bit last night, a lot of people are going to say he's not, and I tend to agree with this, he's not a pure just quarterback. But damn it, he's a ball player. He's a winner, and he's a playmaker. So the key for him is if you use Haynes King the same way this year that you did last year, he won't finish the season. He's already got, some kind of arm-shoulder issue. I want to say he's broken his leg before. He's hurt, his arm/shoulder at A&M, I want to say. So for him to remain healthy, you're going to have to not use him as a running back quite so much. The good news is you got Aaron Philo behind him. Georgia Tech might have, I don't know what like Clemson and other people have, but as far as game-proven guys, Georgia Tech probably has one of the best 1-2 punches at quarterback of anyone in the country. I would definitely be willing to say in the ACC. I also think there's a 99.9% chance you're going to see both of these quarterbacks this season. In other words, you're not going to see Aaron Philo just in garbage time. They're probably going to scheme up sets for both these quarterbacks and use them. They did it with Pyron too. I don't really like the way they did it with Pyron last year. Obviously, we lose that Pyron. He goes to Minnesota. And look, I'm rooting for him. I hope the absolute best for Pyron. I know a lot of you people like to shit on him that are Tech fans, which I don't really understand. Anyone that sacrifices their body, the dude's the dude's never going to be the same after that collarbone breaks. Anyone that sacrifices their body for Georgia Tech, I'm not going to shit on that guy, man. I don't know what some of you guys' problems are. But they used him as like a Tim Tebow-esque guy. And, when he came in the game before, like, King got hurt, you knew what he was going to do. I think that was a failure of Buster Faulkner and how he was used there, to be honest. But I think that about covers it. As far as special teams, obviously, like, Aiden Beers coming back. You lose Kyle Shanahan, which you don't hear me complaining about. We do bring in a kid from UNLV at punter. He's not rated. I have no idea what to think about him. But either way, just broad strokes. I'm worried about defensive line. I'm worried about tight end. And I'm worried about running back coming into this season. Now, we do have another portal window, if I had to guess. Obviously, you're going to have people transfer in and out. We need to get a proven defensive lineman. Whatever money we do have in the coffers for our football team, it needs to be spent on a defensive lineman. I know we've brought in quite a bit, but you need a game-proven 6 or 7 figure defensive lineman you're bringing in. Let me know what you guys think. What are you worried about for Georgia Tech's roster this coming up year? What are your pain points? What do you want to see? Leave it in the comment section below. We also have merch if you're interested in that. We got hats, we got shirts, we got sweatshirts. Y'all have a good one.